The massive alien survey ship Star Seeker hung silently in Earth's orbit, its crystalline sensors focusing on the blue planet below. Commander Mark of the Galactic Federation stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his large eyes widening as the data streamed across the main screen. "This can't be right," he muttered, his pale skin taking on an even whiter shade. "Run the planetary analysis again." The ship's computer hummed softly as it recalculated. The results remained the same: extreme temperature variations, active tectonic plates, regular natural disasters, and atmospheric composition that should have made complex life impossible. Yet there it was, a civilization spanning the entire globe. "Sir," his science officer Tom called out, "you need to see this footage." The main screen switched to various scenes from Earth. Humans climbing Mount Everest in freezing conditions, others diving into deep ocean trenches, workers in protective suits handling molten metal, and soldiers conducting warfare in scorching deserts. "They live everywhere," Tom said, his voice trembling. "From frozen wastelands to burning deserts, they've adapted to every environment on their planet." Commander Mark watched in horror as the footage showed humans participating in something called extreme sports, deliberately jumping from high places, racing vehicles at deadly speeds, and climbing sheer cliff faces without safety equipment. "Are they being forced to do this?" he asked. "No, sir. They do it for entertainment." The bridge fell silent. The concept of seeking out danger for pleasure was alien to their species, who had evolved on a perfectly stable world with no predators. The next footage showed a human continuing to fight despite sustaining what should have been a debilitating injury. The medical scans revealed that humans had an unprecedented ability to heal and adapt. Their bones would grow back stronger after breaks, their muscles would rebuild after damage, and their immune system could learn to fight almost any disease. "Look at their teeth," Tom pointed out. "They're omnivores. They can digest both plant and animal matter. Some of them even deliberately consume chemicals that cause pain. They call it spicy food." Commander Mark felt his inner membranes contract with disgust. What about their physical capabilities? The data was even more disturbing. Humans had evolved as pursuit predators, capable of running their prey to exhaustion. Their endurance was unmatched in the known galaxy. They could regulate their body temperature through sweating, a feature that made them incredibly efficient at long-term physical activity. "Sir," the communications officer Bill interrupted, "we've intercepted their entertainment broadcasts. You should see this." The screen filled with images from human movies, stories they told for amusement. Stories about surviving global disasters, fighting off alien invasions, and persisting through apocalyptic events. The humans didn't just survive disasters. They imagined new ones and planned for them. Their history, Tom added, pulling up more data, shows constant warfare, yet each conflict has led to technological advancement. They went from primitive flight to space travel in less than 70 planetary cycles. It's unprecedented. Commander Mark slowly sank into his command chair. In all his years of exploration, he had never encountered a species like this. The humans weren't just surviving on a death world. They were thriving on it. They sought out challenge and danger, used it to grow stronger, and seemed to enjoy the process. "Send this data to Central Command," he ordered. "Mark it as urgent. Add my personal recommendation that we approach with extreme caution. These humans," he paused, searching for the right words, "they're not like anything we've encountered before." As the Star Seeker prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Commander Mark took one final look at the planet below. Its swirling white clouds concealed a world that had forged one of the most resilient and adaptable species in the galaxy. The humans didn't just survive their death world. They had mastered it. "May the stars help us if we ever have to face them in conflict," he whispered to himself, knowing that his superiors would soon share his fears. The galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place, not because they had discovered a new threat, but because they had found a species that considered threat and danger to be normal parts of existence. In the central scientific chamber of the Galactic Federation, lead researcher Alan stood before the council, his tentacles trembling as he presented his findings about Earth. The massive display behind him showed a timeline of human history, each entry more disturbing than the last. Distinguished council members, he began, our initial assessment of humans was not nearly frightening enough. After studying their historical records, we've discovered something unprecedented. The chamber darkened as images of human warfare through the ages appeared on screen. From ancient battles to modern conflicts, the progression showed an alarming pattern of rapid technological development. These creatures, Alan continued, didn't just survive their wars. They used each conflict to improve their technology. What's more disturbing is how quickly they adapt enemy weapons and tactics. They learn from every defeat. One council member raised a crystalline appendage. Surely they must have periods of peace. Alan's color shifted to a darker shade. That's the truly terrifying part. Even during peace, they deliberately create challenging situations to prepare themselves. He displayed footage of military training exercises, disaster drills, and survival training programs. They simulate disasters and conflicts, he explained. They intentionally put themselves in dangerous situations to learn how to survive them. Look at this. The screen showed humans in protective suits practicing for chemical attacks, others drilling for earthquakes, and some preparing for space emergencies. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But here's what truly separates them from any species we've encountered, Alan said, pulling up new footage. They seek out danger for pleasure. The display showed humans jumping out of perfectly functional aircraft, diving into deep ocean caves, climbing frozen waterfalls, and racing vehicles at lethal speeds. Several council members had to look away. These activities, Alan explained, they call them sports and hobbies. They do this for fun. Their young are encouraged to take calculated risks to build what they call character. The head council member leaned forward. Are you suggesting they're irrational? No, Alan replied quickly. That's what makes them more dangerous. They have a unique ability to calculate risk versus reward. They understand the danger. They simply choose to face it anyway. They have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. New data appeared, showing human medical capabilities. They've turned their own biological healing response into a science. They deliberately damage their muscles to build them stronger. They expose themselves to pathogens to strengthen their immune systems. They break bones in controlled ways to make them heal denser. The council chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief. There's more, Alan continued. Their entertainment media reveals their psychological makeup. He played clips from human movies showing apocalyptic scenarios, alien invasions, and global disasters. They constantly imagine new ways their world might try to kill them. Then they plan how to survive it. One council member stood up. Are you suggesting they're paranoid? No, Alan said firmly. They're prepared. There's a difference. They don't fear these scenarios. They anticipate them. They've survived multiple extinction-level events in their planet's history. Each time, they emerged stronger. The head council member's voice echoed through the chamber. Your recommendation. Alan took a deep breath. We have two options. First, we could try to contain them on their planet, but given their rate of technological advancement and their drive to explore, this would eventually lead to conflict. Conflict with a species that treats warfare as a science and thrives on overcoming challenges. And the second option, we approach them diplomatically. Now, while we can still offer them something of value. They respect strength and capability, but they also show remarkable capacity for cooperation and alliance when treated as equals. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Federation had never encountered a species that saw challenge and danger as opportunities rather than threats. One final thing, Alan added quietly. Their information networks are filled with speculation about alien life. They're not just ready for contact. They're eager for it. And they've imagined every possible way such contact could go wrong, and how to survive it. The council members looked at each other nervously. The galaxy suddenly felt much smaller and much more dangerous. Ambassador Ray stood in the gleaming reception hall of the United Earth Council, fighting to keep his composure as he watched the humans around him casually consume what his scanners identified as poison. The dark liquid they called coffee contained enough stimulants to send his species into cardiac arrest, yet the humans were drinking it by the cupful. "Would you like some?" asked David, the human diplomatic liaison, holding out a steaming cup. "No, thank you," Ray managed to reply, trying to hide his horror. His environmental suit's sensors were detecting dozens of potentially lethal substances in the room, all of which the humans treated as normal. The diplomatic meeting was scheduled to begin in their conference room, a term that made Ray nervous after learning that humans conducted their most important decisions in enclosed spaces. As they walked, he noticed the humans' strange comfort with heights. The building had transparent windows showing the dizzying drop to the ground below. "Before we begin," David said, leading them into the conference room, "would you like to see some of our recent technological achievements?" Ray nodded, though his species' equivalent of a threat assessment system was screaming warnings at him. The humans activated a holographic display, proudly showing off their latest space vessels. "This is our new Deep Space Explorer," David explained, pointing to a ship that made Ray's inner organs clench. "We've developed a new fusion containment system that allows us to—" "You're containing fusion reactions," Ray interrupted, his translator struggling to maintain composure. "Deliberately." "Of course," David smiled. "It's much more efficient than our old fission drives, though we still use those for smaller vessels." Ray made a mental note to update the Federation's threat assessment. These humans weren't just surviving on a death world. They were building ships powered by contained stellar processes. The presentation continued, each revelation more terrifying than the last. The humans had developed AI systems that they kept carefully controlled because they were properly cautious about artificial intelligence. They had weapons that could crack planets, which they maintained as deterrents. They had medical technology that could rewrite genetic codes, which they used to cure diseases. During a break, Ray watched in shock as several humans consumed food covered in a red substance that his sensors identified as capsaicin, a chemical weapon that caused burning pain. They were eating it voluntarily, for pleasure. "Is everything all right, Ambassador?" David asked, noticing Ray's distress. "You seem uncomfortable." "I'm fine," Ray lied, watching a human child outside the window climbing on a metal structure for amusement. "Just processing all this information." "Well, wait until you see our plans for Mars," David said enthusiastically. "We're going to make it more like Earth." Ray's translator almost shorted out. They wanted to make another planet more like their death world. The implications were staggering. The final presentation of the day covered human medical technology. Ray watched in growing horror as they explained their practice of vaccination, deliberately exposing themselves to weakened pathogens to strengthen their immune systems. They described surgical procedures where they cut themselves open to repair internal damage. They talked about exercises where they damaged their muscles so they would regrow stronger. "And this is just the beginning," David concluded proudly. "We're working on ways to extend human lifespans, enhance our natural healing abilities, and maybe even adapt to live on other worlds without terraforming them first." Ray managed to maintain his diplomatic composure, but his report to the Federation that evening was urgent and clear. The humans weren't just dangerous because of their technology or their ability to survive extreme conditions. They were dangerous because they saw the universe's most lethal forces as tools to be used, challenges to be overcome, and opportunities to grow stronger. As his ship left Earth's orbit, Ray watched the blue planet grow smaller. The humans had achieved in a century what had taken his species a millennium, and they showed no signs of slowing down. Their gift of coffee beans would be classified as a potential chemical weapon, their food as a testament to their resistance to toxins, and their technology as a warning of what they might become. The galaxy would never be the same again. The first shots were fired over a simple misunderstanding. A Federation mining vessel had strayed into what humans called their territorial waters near Neptune. The Federation captain, following standard protocol, had refused to move, citing ancient cosmic navigation rights. He didn't expect the humans to actually fight over frozen space rocks. The battle lasted exactly 6 minutes. The Federation ship, despite its superior technology, found itself surrounded by 3 smaller human vessels that seemed cobbled together from spare parts and determination. The humans had somehow adapted their primitive weapons to work in space, creating makeshift railguns that fired chunks of metal at terrifying speeds. "They're using kinetic weapons in space," Captain Robert of the Federation ship shouted. "That's insane. They could hit their own ships." The humans, it seemed, had calculated those risks and decided they were acceptable. What happened next would be discussed in Federation military academies for years to come. The humans, after disabling the Federation ship's main drive, didn't destroy the vessel. Instead, they boarded it. In spacesuits that looked frighteningly simple compared to Federation protection gear, they cut through the hull using mining tools converted into weapons. "Fall back to the secondary command center," Robert ordered as warning alerts flashed across his screens. The humans were entering through 3 different points, coordinating their attack with terrifying efficiency. The Federation crew, trained for space combat, found themselves completely unprepared for human warfare. The humans fought in ways that made no logical sense. They exposed themselves to risk to protect their teammates. They used their own bodies as shields, and most horrifyingly, they kept fighting even when injured. "Sir," Robert's second-in-command reported, "they've taken engineering. They're studying our systems while they fight us." That was the moment Robert understood true fear. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning. Every piece of Federation technology they encountered, they examined. Every defensive system they defeated, they analyzed. They were treating combat as a research opportunity. Within hours, the Federation ship was under human control. The crew, locked in their own cargo hold, listened in horror as the humans began experimenting with their technology. "Did you see how they reconfigured our plasma injectors?" One human engineer was heard saying. "We could adapt this for our ships. Double, maybe triple the efficiency." The Federation's worst fears were realized. The humans weren't just capable of using advanced technology. They could improve it. They took the Federation's carefully designed, safety-regulated systems and modified them in ways that traded safety for performance. When Federation reinforcements arrived 2 days later, they found the mining vessel under full human control. The humans had not only learned to operate it, but had modified several systems. They had taken technology designed to be foolproof and optimized it in ways that horrified Federation engineers. "Let's be clear," the human commander said during the negotiation that followed. "We don't want war. But if you violate our territory again, we will respond." This incident was us being nice. The Federation representatives struggled to process this. The humans considered a lightning-fast attack, boarding action, and capture of a foreign vessel to be nice. "One more thing," the human commander added, showing the small device. "We reverse-engineered your universal translator. We've made some improvements. Would you like a copy?" The Federation representatives looked at each other in horror. In just 2 days, the humans had taken apart one of their most complex devices, understood it, and enhanced it. The implications were staggering. As the Federation ships departed, carrying their shaken crew members and modified vessel, the human commander sent one final message. "Next time, just ask if you want to mine near our planets. We're happy to share, but we don't like uninvited guests." The message was clear. The humans weren't aggressive by nature. They were territorial and proud. But most terrifyingly, they saw every conflict as an opportunity to learn adapt, and grow stronger. The Federation's report on the incident was summed up in one line: do not provoke the humans. They don't just win fights, they learn from them. The Federation's top historian, Peter, stood frozen in front of his research terminal, his color draining as he reviewed Earth's geological history. Behind him, the elite research team watched in growing horror as he displayed the data on the main screen. 5 major extinction events, Peter whispered, before humans even evolved. Their planet tried to kill all life 5 separate times, and still they emerge. The screen showed massive volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, global ice ages, and atmospheric changes that should have ended all complex life. Yet somehow, life on Earth had survived each catastrophe, growing more resilient with each near-death experience. Look at this, Peter pointed to a graph. The dinosaurs, massive creatures that ruled their world for millions of years, were wiped out by an asteroid. But small mammals survived. Those mammals evolved into humans. He paused, letting that sink in. They're the descendants of the survivors. Evolution picked the creatures that could survive apocalypse. One of the researchers spoke up. But surely they fear such events. Peter laughed nervously. That's the most terrifying part. Show them the entertainment archives. The screen filled with clips from human movies, stories they created about every possible way their world could end. Asteroids, plagues, nuclear war, alien invasions, zombie outbreaks, climate disasters, and more. The humans had imagined every possible apocalypse and turned them into entertainment. They don't just acknowledge these threats, Peter explained. They rehearse them. They plan for them. They imagine them in detail and then figure out how they would survive. He pulled up images of human prepper communities, government disaster plans, and seed vaults. They maintain something called a doomsday clock. They actively track how close they are to various apocalyptic scenarios. The research team watched in silence as Peter displayed more data. Humans had built bunkers deep underground, created storage facilities in frozen wastelands, and developed plans for rebuilding civilization after almost any disaster. And here's the truly remarkable thing, Peter continued, showing new images. They practice. Look at these disaster drills. They routinely prepare for earthquakes, floods, fires, and other catastrophes. Their children learn disaster response before they learn advanced mathematics. One researcher raised a limb. Perhaps they're simply paranoid. No, Peter replied. They're experienced. Their planet has active volcanoes, regular earthquakes, devastating storms, and regions of extreme temperature. They don't just survive these conditions, they build cities in these places. They construct buildings that sway with earthquakes instead of falling. They build walls to hold back the sea. They create communities in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. He displayed a final set of images, human space programs, and now they're taking this mindset to the stars. They're already planning how to survive on Mars, a planet even more hostile than their own. They're developing technologies to live in space, to mine asteroids, to build habitats on airless moons. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were the descendants of apocalypse survivors, shaped by millions of years of planetary disasters. They didn't just accept challenges. They anticipated them. One final thing, Peter said quietly. Look at their response to the discovery of our existence. He showed reports from Earth's media, scientific communities, and military organizations. They're not just excited about meeting us. They're already planning for every possible way first contact could go wrong. They're preparing for both peace and war, for cultural exchange and cultural conflict. A senior researcher spoke up. Your recommendation. Peter took a deep breath. We need to understand that we're not dealing with just another intelligent species. We're dealing with creatures who treat extinction-level events as challenges to overcome. They survived 5 mass extinctions before they even evolved into humans. Their planet has tried to kill them countless times, and each time they'd grown stronger. He looked at the final image, a human child learning about dinosaurs. They teach their young about extinct species not as tragedies, but as lessons. Their favorite prehistoric creatures are the ones that died out, and they study them to ensure they don't share the same fate. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just survived Earth's attempts to kill them. They had learned from each failure, adapted, and prepared for the next challenge. The Federation Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the vast hall, all focused on the central display showing data from the latest Joint Human-Federation expedition. "As you can see," said Federation Commander James, standing beside the human explorer Mike, "the mission to explore the toxic atmosphere of Venus was a complete success, thanks to our human colleagues." The display showed footage of human scientists working in conditions that would kill most Federation species instantly. They had modified Federation environmental suits to withstand the crushing pressure and acid atmosphere of Venus, improvements that the Federation's engineers had deemed impossible. The humans didn't just survive the mission, James continued. They collected samples, established research stations, and even started planning for permanent installations on the surface. Mike stepped forward, his sturdy frame a stark contrast to the more delicate Federation species. "We've also adapted some of your technology for deep ocean exploration on Earth. We're already mapping trenches that were previously inaccessible." The council members shifted uncomfortably. In just 6 months of partnership, humans had taken Federation technology in directions no one had imagined. They stripped away safety protocols they deemed unnecessarily cautious and pushed equipment far beyond its intended limits. But the most significant development, James announced, has been in military cooperation. The display changed to show joint training exercises. Federation troops were learning human combat tactics, while humans were mastering Federation weapons technology. The combination was proving extraordinarily effective. "Last week," Mike reported, "our joint patrol encountered a previously unknown hostile species in the Outer Rim. The Federation ships provided advanced scanning and shields, while human tactical thinking and, let's call it, creative problem-solving resolved the situation." "You mean," one council member interrupted, "they rammed the enemy flagship while firing modified mining charges?" "We prefer the term kinetic diplomatic solution," Mike replied with a grin. The chamber erupted in a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. Humans were changing how the Federation approached everything from exploration to conflict resolution. "There's more," James continued, showing new data. "Human medical techniques, while seemingly primitive, have provided insights into biological adaptation that our scientists never considered. Their concept of controlled damage to promote healing has revolutionary implications." The display showed Federation doctors learning human surgical techniques, while human physicians studied advanced Federation medical technology. The combination was producing remarkable breakthroughs in treating injuries and diseases. Furthermore, Mike added, "Our engineers have been working together on something we call redundancy, building backup systems that engage when primary systems fail. Your technology is incredibly advanced, but it lacks the survival mechanisms we've learned to incorporate." The council watched as human engineers demonstrated how they had modified Federation ships with backup systems, emergency protocols, and survival equipment. They had taken the Federation's elegant but fragile designs and made them more resilient. "We understand your concerns," James addressed the council directly. "Humans are changing how we do things. They take risks we would never consider. They modify technology in ways that make us uncomfortable, but look at the results." The final display showed the statistics. Exploration efficiency up 300%, successful first contacts increased by 150%, ship survival rates improved by 400%. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Mike stepped forward again. "We know we seem reckless to you, but everything we do comes from centuries of learning to survive on a planet that constantly tries to kill us. We don't take unnecessary risks. We just have a different definition of necessary." The The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Federation had always advanced through careful, methodical progress. Humans brought something different: the ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome challenges in ways the Federation had never imagined. The choice is yours, James concluded. But remember, humans will continue exploring, advancing, and pushing boundaries with or without us. The only question is whether we face the galaxy's challenges together or separately. The Council looked at each other, knowing this was a turning point. Partnership with humans meant accepting their dangerous methods, their constant drive to improve, their willingness to take calculated risks. But the alternative meant watching them advance alone, potentially becoming something the Federation couldn't match. The vote that followed was unanimous. The galaxy was changing, and the Federation would change with it, under human guidance. 10 years after the Human-Federation partnership began, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. In the Great Hall of the Federation's Central Academy, students from 100 different species gathered to hear Admiral Bob, a human, give the graduation speech. "When I was young," Bob began, looking at the diverse crowd, "we dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, we're helping the galaxy embrace them." The audience included Federation species who had once feared space travel, now confidently piloting ships with human-inspired safety systems. Species that had evolved on gentle worlds were learning to explore harsh environments using modified human survival techniques. "Look around you," Bob continued. "See that crystalline student? His people once refused to leave their home system. Now they're leading deep space mineral surveys. The aquatic graduate next to him. Her species used to fear fire. Now they're helping design plasma engines." In the decades since humans joined the Federation, exploration had exploded. Human methods, once considered recklessly dangerous, were now standard practice, though always with careful Federation oversight to prevent actual recklessness. "But our greatest achievement," Bob said, pointing to a display showing new colony worlds, "isn't just surviving in harsh environments. It's teaching others how to thrive in them." The screen showed Federation species adapting human techniques to settle worlds they once considered uninhabitable. They built underground cities on frozen planets, floating platforms on gas giants, and deep-sea habitats in alien oceans. Every impossible environment became a challenge to overcome. "Remember," Bob smiled, 10 years ago, most of you thought humans were crazy. Now you're all doing crazy human things. You're playing our sports, eating our spicy foods, and even joining our disaster response teams." The audience laughed. It was true. Federation species had started adopting human practices, finding that controlled risk-taking and pushing boundaries led to rapid advancement. Even their most conservative members had embraced some human innovations. "But you've taught us too," Bob acknowledged. "We've learned patience from the crystal species, precision from the aquatics, and wisdom from the ancient ones. Together, we're better than we ever were apart." The display showed statistics that proved his point. Federation space had expanded by 200%. Scientific discoveries had increased by 400%. First contact success rates were at an all-time high as human adaptability combined with Federation diplomacy. "The galaxy once feared us," Bob continued. "They called Earth a death world, and humans a dangerous species. But look what happened when you stopped fearing us and started learning from us." He gestured to a group of Federation scientists who had recently completed human survival training. "You discovered that facing challenges makes you stronger, that taking calculated risks leads to rewards, that what seems impossible is often just difficult." The screen showed images of new hybrid technologies. Federation precision combined with human durability. Ships that were both elegant and tough. Weapons that were powerful yet carefully controlled. Medical techniques that blended advanced technology with natural healing. "But most importantly," Bob said, his voice growing serious, "you learned what humans have always known. The universe is not divided into safe and dangerous places. Every world is potentially deadly. Every world is potentially habitable. The difference lies not in the world itself, but in how you approach it. The audience nodded. This was now core Federation doctrine. Adaptability over avoidance, preparation over fear. Today, you graduate as the first class fully trained in both Federation and human methods. You're explorers who understand both caution and courage. Scientists who respect both safety and innovation. Warriors who know both power and restraint. Bob looked at the graduating class with pride. The galaxy once feared Earth was a death world that produced dangerous creatures. Now they understand that Earth was a training ground that produced survivors. And we're teaching the galaxy how to survive. The ceremony ended with a traditional human celebration, a party that would have terrified Federation species a decade ago. Now they joined in, eating spicy foods, trying extreme sports in safe environments, and even dancing. Something many species had never considered before meeting humans. As Bob watched the celebration, he smiled. The galaxy had indeed changed. It wasn't that humans had made every world a death world. They had taught the galaxy that every world was an opportunity, every challenge was a chance to grow stronger, and every species had the potential to be extraordinary. The Federation wasn't just surviving anymore. It was thriving. And it all started because they stopped fearing the crazy humans from Earth.